We've been looking at triads for a while now, and so far we've learnt about the major triad, which sounds like this. So when those three notes are played together, that forms a C major triad. And we've also learnt about minor triads. So here's an example of a minor triad when we put together A, C and E and play them all at the same time. We get that minor triad, which is a little bit more dark in colour than the major triad. The major and minor triads are kind of like our bread and butter. We use them all the time in music. So there are some songs that only use major and minor triads to make up their harmonic structure. In other words, the chords that we use to play the song. But there are some other types of triad that we do come across every now and again, and these are really, really good to know about because they give us a few other colours that we can start to use in our music. And so in this video we're going to have a look at the triad called the diminished triad. Let's write it down here. Diminished. It's got loads of I's in. Is that right? Diminished. Yes, that's right. Now, what does diminished mean? Well, when we talk about diminished, we normally mean something's got a little bit smaller, like my appetite has diminished, means that I don't want to eat quite as much food as I did before. Now, in music, when we talk about a diminished triad, we talk about a triad that sounds a little bit like this. Now, a lot of people say when they hear a diminished triad, they think of something spooky. It sounds a little bit like a horror movie. People often use these when we're writing soundtracks for horror movies, or perhaps old-time horror movies. We probably don't get too scared by that sound nowadays, but certainly back in the silent movie era, that chord was very, very commonly used for a bad guy. Or something else that we should be a little bit wary of. So how do we build a diminished triad? Well, actually, it's really, really easy, and there's two main ways we can go about it, and I'll show you each of those now. The first way is just to modify, or if you like, diminish a triad that we already know really well, and that is the minor triad. So if we take a minor triad, and we'll pick one here, let's say C minor. So we're going to put together C, E flat, and G, and make this minor triad. And all we need to do to turn this minor triad into a diminished triad is to take the fifth note, the fifth degree of the scale, this G here, and move it down one semitone. So we go from a G to an F sharp. Now, if we put these three things together, the C and the E flat from the minor triad, and add in the F sharp, then we get this slightly more dark and mysterious, even maybe sinister sounding triad. Here's our minor triad. Sounds quite dark, but not quite as sinister as the diminished triad. So that's one way we can go about building a diminished triad. If we know the minor triad on that particular note, so if we pick here's our A, if we were to build a minor triad on there, which involves adding in a C and an E, the easiest way to turn this triad into a diminished triad is again take the fifth note of the chord. So every minor triad has a first, a third, and a fifth degree of the scale. We're talking about the A minor scale here. We're going to move that fifth note, the top note of the triad, down one semitone. And adding in the A and the C, we get that mysterious, slightly sinister sound again, and that's the A diminished triad. So that's our first method. We can take a minor triad and just move down a semitone. Move that fifth note down a semitone. Now, there's another way we can do it. If you remember when we were building major and minor chords, sometimes we counted up in semitones from our root of our triad to find the third and fifth elements of those triads. So if you remember when we worked on a major triad, we could take a C, count up 4 semitones, then 3 semitones. So 1, 2, 3, 4 gave us the E, and then 1, 2, 3 gave us the G. So to make a major triad, we counted up 4 semitones, then 3 semitones. To make a diminished triad, what we do is we count 3 semitones, and that will give us our third of the chord. Then we just need to count another 3 semitones, So 3 more semitones to give us our 5th. So let's have a try on that. Let's choose a note we haven't used. Like, let's use F sharp, because I think we don't use F sharp enough. So we're going to build a F sharp diminished triad, and the way we do that using this second method is there's our root F sharp. We're going to count up 3 semitones. That gives us an A, and then we're going to count up 3 more semitones. There's our C, and so these 3 notes added together gives us a F sharp diminished triad. And so sometimes you'll see a chord symbol written down in the piece of music that uses the notation F dim, and that's what it's talking about, or in this case F sharp dim, so let's put a sharp in there. This symbol means a chord made up of the notes of this triad. So just to leave you with, I'm going to play a few more diminished triads so you can just get the mysterious and slightly sinister sound of the diminished chord into your head.